Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Warcraft video. Well, do you remember the glory days of Legion? Back when we had Il'gynoth's first set of whispers, those of Ny'alotha, we had Ogmott's writings, all the fun speculation we did. Well, today we've got a new installment, because upon his death, Il'gynoth told us he would return to ny'alotha. He wasn't lying, for when we enter ny'alotha, that is where we find him, along with a fresh set of prophecies, no doubt trying to corrupt us, but little did he know that Rathian socketed today's sponsor NordVPN into our legendary cloak. NordVPN.com/Bellular Gaming have been my VPN choice for years, and they've joined us to sponsor this video. A VPN, or virtual private network, takes all the data that goes out of your computer and redirects it through a server of your choosing. Why? Well, with Nord's 5,000 plus servers and industry-leading encryption, you'll be anonymous and you'll appear as being from whatever location you want. And you've even got features like Onion and Double VPN, bypass regional restrictions on apps, or even bypass China's Great Firewall. Plus, Nord are a Panama-registered company, so your government can't get through them to breach your privacy. I use them every time I travel and whenever I'm out on public Wi-Fi. After all, it only takes one person with a tool like Wireshark and you could get pwned. Their app and browser extension are super easy to use, and you can get 70% off a 3-year subscription at nordvpn.com/Bellular Gaming. That's less than the price of a monthly coffee, plus you'll get a free month and 30-day money-back guarantee. So, thank you to Nord for supporting our team, and with that, let's get into the video.
Before the last shadow falls, the Father of Sleep shall savor his feast.
Okay, this really starts us off with a significant line, and I think it's significant because it's the first impactful and direct reference to Muzala from a major lore character in the kind of modern story. Now, before this he had been mentioned, but not really in a way that was central to the game, so you might be wondering how this line actually refers to Muzala. Well, answering that takes us way back to the tablet of Thika from Zul'Farrak. Now, that tablet dates back to vanilla, and it lists several different Loa and some of the ways in which they're referred to, and Muzala's entry says this: God of Death, Father of Sleep, Son of Time, and the Night's Friend. So yes, Il'gynoth directly mentions him by name here. Then also note that Muzala is mentioned in Battle for Azeroth itself, as if you actually go to the Faraki Troll Enclave in Dazar'alor, you'll find a shrine to him there. Now, Muzala also features in Traveler, and that's the Warcraft children's books, and in Traveler 2 he says this to the protagonist: "Not yet, Son of Thorn, not yet. This is not the day. The day comes, it comes, but Muzala will not engage you here or now. Our battle is yet to come, but it will come, child, it will come, and if you lose that battle, Muzala feasts on all of Azeroth, all of Azeroth, all of Azeroth, all of Azeroth." Yes. Feasts on the whole planet. Now, remember what Sylvanas says in this clip.
"Countless souls have been fed to the hungering darkness. In the end, he too will serve death."
Yeah, you can really see how those two line up, don't you? And also note that the transcription of what Sylvanas says there capitalizes death, and death is referred to as the hungering darkness. And that's very much in line with what we hear there from Muzala, who talks about feasting on all of Azeroth. Now, in addition to this, Sylvanas also says that N'Zoth will serve death. Well, the Il'gynoth line says, "when the last shadow falls," and you could read the last shadow as being N'Zoth. The reworked version pretty much is this: "Before N'Zoth falls, Muzala shall savor his feast." And I find this one to be pretty interesting, as Muzala winning would appear to run counter to N'Zoth's goals. The line here does fit perfectly, but you do have to wonder why Il'gynoth would actually said that. Now, indeed, we do hear that the Void sees all realities, but doesn't necessarily know which may come to pass, so that could exactly be what N'Zoth is feeding us here, a potential reality. This one, of course, happens to be in line with Sylvanas' goals.
The Golden One claims a vacant throne. The crown of light will bring only darkness.
So there are several reads in this one, but we're going to start off with the most simple, it being Kalia Menethil. Now, she fits the Golden One given what happened to her. The Crown of Light will bring darkness. That's an interesting line here, and that could just be referring to her state of light based on death. Now, as for it only bringing darkness, well, that is actually very interesting here. We don't really know how much of Kalia is actually left in there. We don't really know the mechanics of her current state of being, or to what degree the light has impacted how she actually thinks. Because here's the thing, yes, yes, Callie is full of compassion now, but, well, so is Yrel when we last met her, and things certainly have changed there, with Yrel frankly being pretty darn evil. Not that we needed more evidence of the light being evil given what Zira attempted to do on Illidan. And on that topic, well, there's a side read here. So Illidan almost got force converted by Zira. Now that could give you your crown of light, and the vacant throne could be the, well, vacant throne on the seat of the Pantheon, but that's more of a wild thing, so let's get back to Kalia. Now, I think she clearly fits here, but we're just not sure what the darkness could actually be, other than there being a dark twist to her light based on death, evil actions following from her conversion, or just a turn for the worse for the Forsaken. And while we're on this topic, I should mention that this did remind me of Illyria's 1,000 Years of War vision, in which she saw a dark future where the light became victorious, but actually became an oppressor. Generally speaking, I think we just need to be suspicious of the light going forward. Now, there's another theory that I have here. Vol'jin could be the golden one. So, Aer told us that he had been touched by the hand of Valor. Now, what throne would he claim? That would be hard. I doubt he's just going to get his old job back. It could be more of a metaphorical read, perhaps him claiming power or fulfilling the role of another character. But certainly we know that Vol'jin, he's not quite dead, he's not quite alive, and he's been touched by, touched by the hand of Valor. What the hell does that mean? Now, this could also be a commentary on Anduin not really filling his father's throne, but being golden, referring to his abilities as a priest. Indeed, I think the doubting of Anduin's capabilities is constant, especially as seen recently with Tyrande. Anyway, with that, let's move on to the next line.
When their mistress beckons, 9 ravens take flight. Each seeks a prize to earn her favor.
Well, hopefully you listened to our first Sylvanas episode and remembered the Edge of Night short story, in which she is rescued from oblivion by the 9 Valkyr. Now, their leader spoke to Sylvanas, saying that she and her Valkyr were trapped in Bolvar's service, that they needed a vessel, one who understands life and death, one who has seen the light and the dark, someone worthy of power over life and death. Sylvanas agrees to this, and their leader takes her place in oblivion, leaving the other 8 Valkyr working for Sylvanas. Now, this line could refer to Sylvanas as the mistress of the Valkyr. Now, of those remaining 8 Valkyr, 3 of them died resurrecting Sylvanas in Silverpine, a 4th died in Andorhal, and a 5th died in patch 8.1, leaving Sylvanas with 3 left. Now, I don't believe these Valkyr actually die when we kill them. Indeed, I suspect they go to the same oblivion that Sylvanas found herself in Edge of Night. Now, are they still active there? That very much is a big question. That's a big unknown. Much of Sylvanas' arc here is really about her seeing what no one else has seen with that oblivion, well, bar the now lost soul of Arthas. So if the Valkyr are the 9 ravens, then what prizes are they actually seeking to earn Sylvanas' favor? Well, on that, we really don't know. We can't see into the Oblivion realm, and her final 3 Valkyr are currently a mystery. Now, Sylvanas did leave us saying that all would be clear when we next meet, so I would expect that one to be answered pretty soon. Now, that said, I'd be remiss not to mention another line. The Lord of Ravens will turn the key. Okay, so this one's a bit weird, because if you're talking about the same ravens there, then we're actually dealing with 2 characters, because Lord is a gendered title, so we're dealing with a male and the mistress is a female. Now, the original Lord of these ravens actually was the Lich King, with Bolvar, of course, now being the Lich King, though he does actually comment that he, lost the Valkyr in Chronicle 3, and he was actually kind of pissed off about that. Now, it also could be Odin, or maybe, you could say that Helya is the mistress, but there's a big problem there, because if Blizzard made it be that way, they'd be forgetting some of their lore, because the Scourge Valkyr were created by the Lich King after he became aware of Odin's Valkyr. That means that even though Odin ordered the creation of the Valkyr, the Scourge ones that now serve Sylvanas were created by the Lich King. Anyway, going back to Sylvanas, the original goal of the new Valkyr was to raise up new Forsaken. Now, assuming that those Valkyr have been booted out of the Horde, then, they're just rambling around with Sylvanas. They're currently free, so maybe this line is hinting at them having a new mission. Then I should also mention that if you look at the sails of Sylvanas' flagship, you do actually see a raven figure, so that's another interesting little side bit. Anyway, let's move on to the next line.
The vassal of life disguises treachery. Beware the eyes of greed.
Okay, this is an excellent one. Now, first, if the lines are disconnected, then I'd like to read this description of the Valkyr leader from Edge of Night. The Valkyr leader directed her luminous green eyes to Sylvanas, their edges rimmed with sadness. So yeah, untrustworthy green eyes. Gotta wonder if they were serving their original master, the original Lord of Ravens after all. Anyway, let's move on. So, the vassal of life disguises treachery. Now, a vassal is one who serves. So, well, who serves life, and what is life? The most simple reading here is that it's Aenar, the life binder. Now, she isn't life, she's merely the titan who serves it. Now, taking that read, how is she being treacherous? How could that actually be? Well, if all things should exist in balance, life and death, shadow and light, order and chaos, then something odd is going on within the Pantheon, because she created the dragon aspect of life, but not one of death to look over the Shadowlands. And this does beg the question, where is the Titan of Death? I mean, we've got a Titan Keeper connected to the Emerald Dream, but we don't have a Titan Keeper connected to the Shadowlands. After all, this unbalance between life and death, this seems to be a growing problem with entities like the Lich King in Battle for Azeroth saying in relation to Sylvanas that she upsets the balance between life and death. So is Aenar covering something up here? What's going on with the Aenar/Elune connection and speculation that I've already mentioned in other videos? I mean, Aenar's Pillar of Creation was the Tears of Elune. So is Aenar both like somehow the Mother and the Black Moon? Is there something she's not been telling us? I think Blizzard are obviously weaving mysteries around Aenar and Elune. I mean, the whole absence of a Death Dragon aspect, a Death Keeper, and a Death Titan in the Pantheon, that does make us wonder that maybe the Pantheon had sort of taken a distaste towards death and is not being fully honest with us. Perhaps they know that about Argus and maybe abandon him to his fate. That's one theory. And then on the topic of Argus, well, in Thousand Years of War, he's referred to as an Emerald Star. So does that mean he was initially actually life-related but was twisted to death? Would there be a competition between him and Aenar? Now, he is described as the Emerald Star in Thousand Years of War, but it later does mention fel, like green fel, so that fel color could be the source of the emerald in the Emerald Star. But still, if it wasn't, then it would definitely cast him as initially being a life titan, later being twisted by the Legion, so that's a bit of a crazy one. I mean, he's even called Argus the Unmaker. Well, what if Argus the Maker was his original purpose? It's really hard to tell. That is wild speculation, but I think there could be something there. I think clearly there's a lot more going on with Argus than we know, and generally I think this line is pointing at the more cosmic scale mysteries. Now, we could also take it that Aenar actually is life in regards to this line, and that would mean that Freya is her vassal. Now, if that's the case, it could indicate treachery on the part of Freya, and I think Loken and Odin both show us that the Keepers can be, pretty crazy characters, right? They can take big decisions. They're not all dim robots like Mother, so we know that Freya created and kind of nurtured the Emerald Dream from the World Soul. Well, there's a notable absence of anything going on in the Shadowlands, so has Freya been treacherous? Is there something that we don't know there? This line is kind of hinting at something like that. Now, as for the line about green eyes, I think that's generally tied into the more cosmic scale stuff, kind of those who are green relating to life. But you could take it another way. I mean, Matthias Shaw has green eyes. He does joke about leaving for a lady in patch 8.3, so maybe he's actually loyal to Sylvanas. But jokes aside, I do think this is referring to things on a grander scale rather than just saying, hey, people with green eyes, shouldn't trust them. Anyway, with that, let's move on to the next line.
5 lanterns now darkened. The flame they seek will light the Master's way.
So this is an interesting line in that it ends clearly, but overall is very mysterious. So masters is plural with a possessive apostrophe, and that means that it's talking about the masters of the old gods, which of course is the Void Lords. What else? Well, let's mix this line in with one of the older prophecies from Il'gynoth to get something a bit more complete. Here we go. 5 keys to open our way, 5 torches to light our path, 5 lanterns now darkened, the flame they seek will light the Master's way. And I also think we should not forget this line from Ogmot. Now Ogmot understands, a door, a path, ours, full the circle awakened us all. Okay, so we've got 5 keys that open a door. We've got Ogmot talking about a door and a path. We've got the path being lit by 5 torches, and now we've got these 5 darkened lanterns. And I suspect that actually, basically none of this has came to pass yet. Now, I do think that the one bit that has came to pass is that the 5 keys are the Pillars of Creation, and that the door is the Tomb of Sargeras portal. Now, there's a lot more going on here than we know, and I think we should call back to this ny'alotha line from The Broken Shore. This was always a place of power. Egwene was drawn here, and before her the elves, and before them the trolls, and before them... and then she stops. So there's clearly something fundamentally powerful underneath that area, meaning that I think that, yeah, it probably is the door that they're talking about, and those pillars are the keys. And if you want further spooky things about the Tomb of Sargeras, or as it was previously called, the Temple of Elune, note that whenever a player interacts with a font of Elune in there, near the Sisters encounter, you actually just die, right? ny'alotha tells you to interact with it, and she kind of gloats about, oh, the upstart goddess still has power here. So that's spooky. So if that's the door, then what is the path? Well, I think this is where I've got something a bit new and spicy. What if the path to our world was lit by the new 5-pointed star that appeared after Argus's defeat? What if that was a beacon that drew the void to us? Now, Blizzard did say that if that star disappears, we should be worried. Now, here's a very, very important thing here. Il'gynoth speaks these lines to us during the ny'alotha raid. Now, look, with 7.2 and 7.3, Blizzard made it so that after completing the raid, Azeroth's skybox changed. Well, what if we leave ny'alotha to find that that star has dimmed? If so, that would be the darkening of the lantern. Why would the lantern be darkening? Who the hell knows? What happens when a Void Lord gets close to you? In this case, we don't really know, but that is one read of it, and I guess I should also mention that if you're using the Tomb of Sargeras, well, we are told that the Lord of Ravens will turn the key, and that would be a reference to Khadgar, who did activate the Pillars of Creation to seal that portal. Okay, so that's one read, but what if it's not the star? Well, okay, we've got those 5 lanterns that are now darkened, and that the flame that they seek is going to light the Master's way. So, the flame to light these metaphorical lanterns will light the Master's way. If that is the case, what are those lanterns? Well, it could be the Dragonflights. After all, they lost their power, and that very obviously could be the darkening referenced in this line. Perhaps the dragons will attempt to regain their originally Titan-granted power, but in the process will actually have that backfire on them. I mean, that wouldn't be surprising, especially if Blizzard is weaving a story in which Titan-originating things are not really as good as we may think. Plus, we just saw Rathian come back. We've had all of these hints about the Dragon Isles, which, by the way, we know Rathian is searching for. So what if the Dragonflights take us to the Dragon Isles in the next expansion, they try to do something there, and it ends up massively backfiring? Overall, though, we've got nothing clear here. This triple serving of 5s, it still is one of the more mysterious prophecies that we have in the game. I've seen some say that the world trees are the lanterns, but I mean, most of them haven't burnt, and I mean, there was only one of them originally, though I suppose that if Azeroth was to almost die, then those, if they were the lanterns, the world trees, they certainly would, darken and wane, and that could be the darkening of the lanterns. But anyway, we do have one more mysterious line to cover, but before that, I want to break form and give you a more clear one.
The cunning ones kneel before 6 masters, but serve only one.
Some of these lines are exciting because they're mysterious. This one I think is exciting because it's so clear, because there are direct reads of this line. First, the Horde's new ruling council of Thrall, Rokan, Bane, Lorthamar, Thalisra, and Gazlo exists. There are literally characters who kneel before this new Horde council, but truly do still serve Sylvanas, as revealed when the Sylvanas Loyalist player walks around Orgrimmar in patch 8.2.5. So there's an extremely direct read. Then our next group of 6 is the 6 cosmic forces, and the sets of characters that seem to personify each of them. Now, if we take this reading, then another line actually becomes relevant here, this time coming from N'Zoth in patch 8.1.5. 6 seats at the high table, 6 mouths that hunger, 1 will consume all others. Now, you could see this as being that the cunning ones respect all of those forces, but actually serve death, for death is the one that will consume all others. Indeed, just look at what Muzala says in Traveler and what we covered at the start of this video. video. Then this line could also refer to a traitor within Dalaran's Council of Six or something like that, but I mean, I kinda doubt it. But okay, with that, let's get on to the less clear and I think really very fun indeed line.
The blind queen wields a scepter of bone. From the deep, she calls forth doom.
Well, it's a good thing that I've been brushing up on my Elune lore, because my Elune lore led me to the Tauren, who of course call Elune Musha. Well, okay, they call that moon Musha. Now, the original Earth Mother story here is that basically her children fell to war and treachery after hearing whispers from deep in the earth. And distraught by this, the Earth Mother ripped out her eyes, forming Azeroth's sun and moon, Anshi and Musha. Now, I think we can assume that the Earth Mother is in fact Azeroth, the World Soul. I mean, that had been a speculation, but Bane pretty much flat out says it in Battle for Azeroth. Now, this is all covered in the Tauren religious text called Sorrow of the Earth Mother, wherein she is actually described as being left sightless. Now, if Azeroth is the strongest of the Titans, then actually the title Blind Queen would fit her. So I think this is a very interesting read. Now, my Elune research is what reminded me on this, so I should mention that it would be odd for Elune or Musha to just be the Eye of Azeroth, though it is true that Elune has been speculated to be Azeroth. There's also the Hinar connection things, so there could be more to that. And another odd thing here is that Azeroth has two moons. In fact, there's Musha, also called the White Lady, and the Blue Child. The latter, like moon, is a bit more mysterious. We don't really know too much about it, but maybe that's just a story for another day. So, if Azeroth is the Blind Queen, what about the Scepter of Bone? Well, have you looked at Sargeras' sword? Yeah, it pretty much looks like it's made of bone. So there's one read of that line. So there's my more wild theory, but there's another one that fits here. So there's Calumenethil, right? And the blindness could be metaphorical, referring to the dark side of the light. Indeed, look how Yrel was sort of blinded to her morals by the light. And then the Bone Scepter could be the Forsaken people that she rules. There's also Talanji. I've seen people say it's Talanji that she's wielding Bomsamdi's power, but I mean, she wouldn't really be blind because she knows about the deal that Rastakhan made. I mean, Bomsamdi actually offered to free her from that deal in return for Sylvanas' head. So that would be a bit of a strange one, but that said, Talanji could be blind to Bomsamdi's boss and greater goals, so that is a way that you could get her to be a blind queen. Then finally, I've actually got another thing from the Elune research that I was doing. So through the Elune research, I was doing a lot of reading on Aenar because there are some, well, I mean, the whole Tears of Elune thing, right, referencing Aenar. Now, if we're to continue the theme of there being spooky titans, this could refer to Aenar, because while I was researching her on Wowpedia, I stumbled upon the old RPG sourcebook description of her weapon. Now, that is a staff made of pure alabaster, so it looks like bone, and it's shot through with veins. It pulsed as if it had a heartbeat, and its touch is said to have gave hope to the despairing, energy to the weary, and life to the dead. Life to the dead from a bone scepter. That certainly is interesting. Now, of course, I should mention, the RPG sourcebooks are not considered canon, but that's an exciting idea that could tie in to some of the other Titan speculation in this video. So, there you go. That is the new whispers of Il'gynoth, as well as how they may tie into some of the past ones. They're pretty interesting in that, you know, a lot of them do have a very direct read, a direct mapping to the modern story. But I've got to wonder if those direct mappings are actually just red herrings, and that's why I really tried to focus more on the cosmic stuff in today's video, because I think that's likely what they're actually talking about. Anyway, with that, I would love to hear what are your theories on these, so let me know down below. This really is one of the most exciting parts of the lore to me, especially because, like, patch 8.3.5 is probably going to happen, and it's probably going to contain little bits of lore. I mean, technically speaking, there's some data mine stuff. I think it was voice lines that said 835 in them. So if that is the case, then 835 is pretty much confirmed. And if that is the case, then yeah, we could get things that could recontextualize the whispers that we've talked about here. It really is an exciting, involving story. So let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. And with that, I'll see you next time.